Hello and welcome back to another episode of Transport Fever 2. In this episode, we'll be taking a look at some of our lines and starting to make sure that they're turning us a profit and that they're still working, as some of our lines may have become obsolete, unupgraded, or just simply aren't making as much money as they used to. So one thing I'd like to point out real quick is the last video we did, it sort of overwrote the save that we had from the video beforehand, so everything that involved setting up this boat line and detailing the fuel area and everything, we had to pretty much redo off camera. So if things are slightly different or the dates don't line up, that's why. But I believe we redid everything that was done in that video, and the progress should all be the same at this point. So coming back to what we're going to do in this video, we're going to come through our lines, make sure everything is running at a profit or at least losing an acceptable amount of money. And I think we might also put a little bit of a focus on rebalancing some of our cargo trains that are leaving the cargo hub, as it's been a while since we've done that and city demands have come and gone, and we've also started bringing in more resources since we've updated those. So let's start off with just some general fixes across the map. So let's take a look at our balances, and we can see the ones losing us the most money are these plane lines that we just set up, and it could be wise to delete some of these planes, but I think I want to let it cycle through just a bit more until we get an accurate depiction of the demand on those lines. For instance, our Montgomery to Sacramento line, that might not be fully representative, and as we click into this airport, we can see that this number is slowly going up. I'm not saying that we'll need all the planes on those lines, but we can get a little bit more of an accurate reading once we let it cycle through for a few months or years in game time. So ignoring those plane routes, let's take a look at the next ones down. Of course, we have our boat line, which is slowly starting to cycle through. We can see money is slowly starting to trickle in as small deliveries are beginning to be made. And then moving on, we have some passenger lines, such as our Downey to Birmingham line. And this one is starting to look promising, actually, as the past couple of periods, it has gotten close to breaking even, but I'm just not sure if it's fully in demand like that yet. Let's take a look in each city. So over here in Downey, I believe this is a train for Jackson. This is our Downey to Birmingham line. This is only bringing in 28 people, and we'll see in just a moment how much money that brings in. So that brought us in 3.4 million, and this train broke even on the period I suppose it was running for. I think we could probably sell one of these trains and we might get much better running out of it. Let's just double check up on the Birmingham side that there's not a ton of demand on that end. So up here in Birmingham, our Downey to Birmingham line does have not that many people waiting. One thing to note though is this station is getting a little full, but there's more than enough space on the platform for that line for people to queue up in. Now another interesting thing to note about that line is our new airport here could be competing with that, since this airport connects to Mesa, so people might see it better to fly to Mesa and then take the bus to Downey as opposed to taking the high-speed rail. But figuring out that math and the logic there is a little hard to figure out, so I'm not sure if we can really pin that down to that cause. So then next we run into a few cargo trains. We have our construction materials to the cargo hub line, which stems from this construction material plant here. So we can see it is producing as much as it can. I think just a large portion of that construction material demand is heading to Mesa, however, and also Downey. So maybe we just don't need that much. I believe recently we deleted one of the trains on here, so hopefully we'll see this cut in half, which I think we're starting to see reflected here. So maybe as it picks up more per load and we've have the running costs, it'll start to make a profit again. So I'm gonna let this just play out until we see where it makes money running as just a single train on that line. But I think something that could also help is redoing some of the lines coming out of this station as well. So while we're here, I don't think we need this last set of platforms and tracks on this line, so we'll delete those. That'll at least make this look a little bit neater and more organized. So now it looks more self-contained and we don't have empty platforms waiting here anymore. But the first thing we'll touch on, I believe, is this Mesa line, and we'll come up and see just how much Mesa needs construction materials. So we can see here it needs a good bit of those construction materials. We're only delivering 117, 118 out of 488. And if we check the train and the line itself, it's only moving them at a rate of about 108, which is probably pretty low compared to what the city actually needs and probably what this is producing for. So we can see here it's producing for Mesa 229, 230 for the rate for that. And we're only transporting about a third of that. So with this also being one of our oldest trains, I think a complete remodel of this train is needed. So this is going to be the train that we'll go with. It has a capacity of 220, which I believe almost doubles the current capacity, and that brings the rate just over what the construction material plant was producing for. So this is operating at about 293, and if we take a look here, Mesa's at about 228. So this gives it room to, first of all, empty out this platform, and maybe if it switches priorities, give some extra time for the train to sort of grow into the line. And here's just a quick view of that train as it comes over our large bridge just before it reaches Mesa. And you can see it's carrying about half a load of the construction materials that it had before. And then the other train that we're going to upgrade here is this little train that's coming in right now, which is our direct connection to Downey construction materials. And I don't believe this one needs to be much bigger. Honestly, I think it just needs to be upgraded a bit. So you can see Downey, this is producing for about 117 on the rate. And this train, you can see, hardly leaves full. So whatever we replace it with is going to be a pretty small train. And honestly, it might even get replaced whenever we finally get to adding a cargo hub connection to Downey. So the train that we're going to run is this EMD GP9 with 4 of our newer flat cars on it. It doesn't have to be anything special, and wasting our money on a much bigger, faster engine is probably a waste for a line like this. So we'll do that, and then we'll come back and just double check the rate and make sure we didn't get too low. So I think about 161 will do just fine on this line, as it'll probably be coming out of this tunnel pretty shortly and we'll get a chance to see just what this train looks like. So here's our little train coming into the station now. Again, it's nothing really big or special, just a small engine moving a small amount of materials as it slowly helps Downey grow with that resource. So that's probably it for a lot of our big offenders in terms of where we're losing money. Next, I want to take a look at cargo types. I don't think this sorts by how full each line is, but we'll go through here, see if anything really sticks out to us, such as lines running pretty much almost empty or anything like that, and we'll take a look and see if we can find the root cause of that. So here's one that sticks out to me, is this grain line here where it's operating at only 7 grain out of 96. So let's just take a look at this, and I think we just have too high of a rate for these trucks. I mean, it's so close to the train station that we really don't need that much. So if we sell one of these trucks, that brings it down a little bit. But also, I don't think... Let's just double check that our train is getting rid of this grain fast enough as well. So it looks like this rate is doing pretty much what it should. It's right at 1200, which is equal to the 3 farms that we have bringing in the resources. So I'm not sure why we have grain piling up here at the train station. Maybe trains are getting caught up in traffic and other things, but we can see that we're leaving with full loads of grain pretty much every time they leave here. So we'll leave that, and hopefully we'll see these trucks start to bring more grain at a time and they'll start to make a profit. Now the next line that really sticks out to me is this one, our Winston-Salem oil to Albuquerque refinery. And this one's one that we recently put in, so I think if we take a look here, I think maybe we're just not fully loaded on this line, but let's just take a look at the rate. So yeah, what happened here is we planned for a rate of 1600, and these oil wells just aren't upgraded yet to reach that demand, and they're probably not going to reach that demand until everything is up and running at the fuel refinery, as it's not generating enough demand back down this supply line to justify these oil wells leveling up. So this oil refinery won't level up until the fuel refinery does. Then the fuel refinery will demand more oil, and the oil will require more crude oil from these oil wells. Now here's another one that sticks out to me, this sawmill line. And this one could be a rate issue. As we can see here, it's not getting quite enough wood from somewhere. So yeah, this is the only forest supplying wood to the sawmill. I think something we could do, and just to help make this more interesting, is add another industry sort of over here on this side. It'll help sort of cement this area as a really nice forestry area. And we do have to pay for it ourselves, so it's not even really like it's cheating or anything. So we'll just place this down. I think we'll build with the collision just so we can get it to build right up to the road. And then we can come back and delete that road. And then we'll just have to come through and clean it up since we did build with collision, so all the trees built inside of the industry as well. But now that we've done that, we can come back through with our paintbrush with the trees and just paint all this back in. And then just to tie it in real quick, we'll grab our erase tool. We'll erase some of the trees right along this path here. We'll get a nice path that sort of follows back this way, and this will connect us to pretty much the rest of the industry that we've designed. So there we go, this area looks much nicer now that it's forested in. We have this industry and everything's connected up. So now we should be able to fully provide for this sawmill, and we'll just have to upgrade these trucks so that they can handle it as well. So we'll grab all these, scroll down, and we'll find a nice flatbed truck to carry these. I think we'll go with these just because they're a little bit shorter, and we do have a small truck station here, so these shouldn't take up too much space. And then the last thing we need to do is adjust the rate, as we'll need this to sit at around 1600. So if we sell 3 of these, that brings us just under. So if we duplicate this and get 1 more, we should be good sitting just like that. So then we'll also have to follow this update down the rest of the chain. And actually we have this line, which operates at a rate of 600. And then we have this line that also operates at a rate of 600. So I'm not too sure how we want to split that up, because we definitely can't fill both demands. And we are sort of filling the demand here, so I think maybe we'll just lower this one, since this is the one that isn't even really running that full anyway. If we take a look here, the consumers, the machines factory is at about half of what the tools factory needs. So I think if we leave this rate lower, that will be probably for the best. So we'll leave this line alone now and let those numbers fix themselves and fluctuate. I know the numbers don't exactly math out here with where we're taking the planks, but I think having that little bit extra allows for some give if there's more demand for machines or if there's more demand for tools. It allows that to sort of slide a little bit. So then continuing on onto the next sawmill line, we have this one here, and we'll want to make sure, so this is another one that only has one forest attached to it, and we could do the same thing that we did before, just add another forest. We could probably add it here, and it would fit pretty nicely into this area. So I think we will do that actually. We'll get this built pretty much right about here, I'd say, and then we'll have to come through and upgrade the road. We'll change it to a dirt road so it looks good and matches. The roads connecting are a little all over the place, so we'll redo these real quick. Alright, so here's this area all finished up. We did move the location of this over to this side, just so it was able to easier connect to this. Although we did end up extending this road through here, so it looks like it connects to this shed building and comes through, and we sort of have a little path that runs through all this. So I kind of like that. We'll keep all of this, and now we should be able to reach our full demand on this line. So again, we'll have to bring this up to a rate of 1600. So let's get 3 more vehicles, see where that gets us. I think 3 more and we'll be just about perfect. So there we go, 16 on that. And then as for our line that heads down to the tools factory, this I think could be done just by simply upgrading these trucks to, let's try these trucks. And that looks like that gets us just under where we need to. So we'll just up that by 1 truck, and pretty much without minimal damage, we're able to fix this line to run at its max efficiency. And then once again, following this all the way to the end of sort of the line, we have these trains here, which are again one of our very old lines, so a simple upgrade should be pretty good for improving the rate. So I think a train as simple as this, the GE P42DC with 8 new boxcars behind it, should pretty much serve exactly what we need it to. Although that looks like the rate is pretty low, lower than what we had before, so maybe that's not exactly what we wanted to do. Alright, so we were able to get this rate up to 800. We just had to replace the new boxcars with some slightly older ones, since the new ones are really long, and we don't have much station length here in Modesto Tool Factory. So just by adding a 3rd train, we were able to get this pretty much up to the rate that we need it to. And just here we can see one of our new trains coming in, and we'll just watch it as it comes in just to verify that it does fit into the station as it comes along here. So this fits pretty much perfectly within the station, and while we're here, we're gonna update the area around with our paint tool, as we built most of this before we knew that we can paint right under all this. So we'll just paint this with asphalt, and we'll do pretty much the same thing over here. We'll cover all of this with asphalt to give it a nice uniform look. Alright, and I think that's going to be it for the buses that we look at, or lines we look at for now. There's definitely still a few that need looked at and fixed, but we'll leave those for another time, as I want to give the map a general look over and get into our cargo hub trains. So quickly, let's do a checkup on our traffic layer. Everything over here seems to be good in Downey and Mesa. Now, San Jose has a little bit of issues here, and it seems like it could be due to this intersection. So I'm almost wondering if we just get rid of this entirely, but first we should see. So this is a fuel truck stop. We'll get rid of this road and this road so that this intersection is opened up. And then we'll place this back down in a spot that's in a much better location for fuel. So we'll get that placed probably right about here. And it doesn't seem like that was close enough to recognize it, so we can just do that, bring that line over, and then we'll lock this street so the city can't build on it. And then I also think we will extend this bus lane all the way down to where the turn is to get to our station. So we'll have to come back and see how this ends up affecting the traffic in this area, but I'm sure it should do just fine considering there's no backup here or here. So it was most definitely probably an issue with our intersection distance, just simply not allowing enough cars to come through the intersection at one time. But anyway, moving on from San Jose, let's keep going around. So Winston-Salem still has a pretty large traffic problem here, and I think we could probably do a similar thing where we can get rid of this intersection here, and probably this one as well, so we can force the cars to use our larger road right about here. So we'll come through, lock these, and then because our trucks and buses are also using this, we will upgrade these to probably 6-lane roads with bus lanes. I don't think we have to do that all the way through the city since the traffic sort of starts and stops right about here. But we will keep an eye on it as traffic is allowed to flow through and turn either towards the center city or deeper into the suburbs area of Winston-Salem. So the logic here is pretty similar to what we just did in San Jose. This longer section of road between intersections should allow more cars to come through at any given moment, as well as give the trucks a spot to go so that they're not backing up all of the traffic here. Now we could give a bus lane to the bridge itself as well, but I think I want to see how this works out before we go about doing that. And then just across the other way, we actually have some sort of backup going on here in this area of Albuquerque. And I think looking at this, it comes down to a combination of short intersections and a lack of a main road coming up to this area. So let's start by deleting this road, and we'll just connect it to the intersection here. And then I think this area needs completely reworked as we bring around this 4-lane road through this area, slightly curving it, connecting it to this road, and then upgrading this. I guess we don't need this one, but upgrading it all the way to sort of this point where the two main areas of traffic connect. And then I think one last thing I want to do in this area is change the location of these bus stops. As much as I like them being right in front of this train station, it's really not a good spot for them. So we'll just bring them right across next to our parking lot, like so, and that should get them off of our busy streets so that they're not clogging up everything right here. Now here's another weird intersection that's probably causing issues, and I think we can probably just delete this, and then we'll make this road locked so that the city can't make connections to it. I think that just make things a little bit easier and allows the city to sort of breathe, especially in this major elevation change area right in here. Alright, and after a few more small road adjustments, it looks like things are starting to clear out here. We no longer have a line of traffic coming all the way up here, and things are starting to flow in and out of the city a little bit easier. And so looking at the rest of our cities across the map, they seem to be doing pretty okay, or at least not having any major issues. So I think I'm okay to leave the traffic layer for now. So now lastly, I wanted to come over to our cargo hub and maybe rebalance some of the trains that we have coming in and out of here. So let's just start by taking a quick look at some of the platforms here and see which ones are very full and maybe need some help or redoing. And it looks like number 6, which is our cargo hub to Modesto line. This one is just a single steam engine that we have going back and forth to this city. It actually just left pretty recently with a load of things. And if we take a look here, its platform is completely full, 360 out of 360 resources, and actual storage here itself is getting pretty full as well. So let's just grab this train and we'll redo it. I think we'll try to keep it all in one train still, since the trip is pretty short and we probably don't need to do too much with it. Maybe just give it a speed upgrade, really. So here's the train we're going to try to replace it with. It's 2 of these BNSF H3 engines with a bunch of box cars and flat cars and tank cars behind it. We increased the capacity by about 50, as you can see down here, the old capacity. This is a little bit longer, so the hope is that we can still keep it within the platform lengths. So we'll replace it and see how this does. So here's that new train now, just leaving Modesto. It'll be a little bit before it gets to the cargo hub, but I think almost right away I know that we're going to have to move this crossover farther back, but I want to see if it works at the cargo hub first. So really the only reason I'm sort of hesitant on this train is you can pretty much just see how long these newer boxcars are, and despite only having 2 more capacity than the old ones, we really have to start weighing on if the size difference outweighs the difference in capacity and speed. So if these boxcars make the train terribly long for pretty much no reason, we don't want to waste all of that space when we can fit maybe a few extra of the slightly smaller boxcars and carry still more at a slightly slower speed. So here comes our train into the cargo hub now. Let's just take a look and see. It's going to be pretty close, and it looks like it's going to be just too long to fit. So we're definitely going to have to either move this crossing track back a bit more, which we can do. We can delete this and get this sort of in this segment of the underground area. So let's just try that real quick. We can get that put in right there, and hopefully that won't cause an issue. We'll see once this train is done filling up. So now it looks like it left almost completely full. A few empty tank cars of fuel, but I think that just helps leave us with a little bit of wiggle room when we start bringing more fuel into the cargo hub. But obviously it's going to be a while before we see this reflected in the finances, so we'll leave it alone, see if that changed anything. One thing we should have done was actually check the rate of the previous train before we did this, but I think we can hopefully see the results of our change in the finances once it's done a few trips. And I think as for our other lines, they might actually be doing pretty okay. So we have our Albuquerque to Winston-Salem line. If we take a look at the finances, this is doing just fine. It's probably one of our most profitable lines on the map right now. And I believe this is a train for that coming in right now. So we should see all these resources go away as it loads up on those. So there you go. You can pretty much see almost all of those resources disappear. There might be a way you could justify adding another train on this line, but I don't think we're going to do that just yet until we get more resources coming in here, because you can see there is probably enough space for another train, considering the capacity on these is 414, and we do have a good amount of resources waiting still. So actually, I think we might do that. I think we will pull the trigger on this and get a 5th train on this line. We'll have to keep an eye on it and make sure that's not overkill or it's not clogging any of our main lines, as these trains are pretty long going all the way out there, but really it's only an issue closer to the cargo hub. And then really I think one of the only next ones we'll take a look at is our cargo hub to Mesa line, as these engines aren't really running at their maximum efficiency, although we don't want to replace those. I think we want to replace the engine. And it looks like we finally got the notification that this train is too long to leave Modesto. So we can just bring this over, and right here should be a good enough spot to have our crossover. I believe we just need to get rid of these signals, and it should be able to flip around no problem. So anyway, coming back to our Mesa line, what I was saying before, I think just adding 2 new engines onto the front here, ones that can reach the top speed of 75 miles an hour. That should really be all we need to do for this line. And replacing the old engines are these GEAC 6000 CW engines, just 2 of those like we had before. We'll modify those, and now these trains should be faster and should be able to handle especially that uphill section out towards Mesa a little bit better. Alright, and to end off this episode, I think we are going to come back and edit this Modesto train, as we have a ton of resources waiting for Modesto yet again. So I think we just need a more efficient train when it comes to space and cargo load. So we'll just replace this engine as a whole, and I think we'll split it into 2 trains instead of just 1. Alright, so this is just a slightly more simplified version of the old train. Only 1 of this engine, and then a bunch of box cars, some flat cars, and tank cars. We'll replace this, and we should be able to find it right here. Significantly shorter, as you can see, but once this train gets going, we'll duplicate it and go from there. Alright, and so with that, I think that's going to be all that we'll do in this video. So if you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions or feedback, leave a comment below. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.